With high serotonin from ashwagandha, people are getting a lot of the side effects associated with SSRIs.
I think that the habits that help increase vitamin D are really critical and really crucial.
Omega-3s.
So I do think for most people it is underrated because it's not one of the sexy supplements, but it can have a benefit.
There's 100 milligrams of potassium in every ounce of meat that you eat.
Some people that we've had on the podcast, it was like the end of the world if you had vegetable oil. And it's like, well, maybe for some people, not for everybody.
There's probably some negative in there somewhere. So, so there's give and take with everything.
When I talked about sodium, the medical community was all up in arms, obviously conflating my recommendation with those for hypertensive, sedentary, overweight people.
The two things that, at least in my observation and in my hands, that have made a big difference have been these two compounds, Tonga Ali, which is Indonesian ginseng, and then Phaedogia agrestis.
Are there any really popular supplements that you think people should start being careful of? I saw that there's a video you have talking about lion's mane and sex drive, and I'm not sure, first off, how much of an effect that may have, but are there any supplements that are super popular that you think people should have a double take at?
Yeah, so the lion's mane one is mostly around the DHT inhibition. A lot of guys, maybe like 2 or 3 out of 10 guys notice a reduction in sex drive, like dramatic reduction in libido and sex drive following lion's mane. My theory there was, one, it might be a mild DHT blocker, and then also it has a compound that can bind to the kappa opioid receptor, which is, generally speaking, it's not a fun receptor to agonize or bind to.
Yeah.
In fact, ibogaine is a really strong. Salvia, the smokable, is actually a really strong kappa opioid agonist. So I think, lion's mane's one that guys should be careful of. Dr. Andrew Huberman spoke about curcumin as well. I also believe that as well. I think curcumin can inhibit DHT, and it has a serotonin boosting effect that, again, like in general, we don't want too much serotonin, because if we're looking at the constitution of someone with awesome testosterone and DHT, like they don't have high serotonin. Those individuals have high dopamine, which promotes DHT and stuff.
So what would, as far as serotonin, what should people be careful of in terms of, potentially increasing it, or what should people be careful with in terms of serotonin in general?
Yeah. Well, there's one herb again. It's ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, it's awesome for lowering stress. It does increase testosterone, but it does have a bit of a dark side, and that is it can sort of desensitize a particular serotonin receptor that regulates the total production of serotonin in the brain. And so with high serotonin from ashwagandha, people are getting a lot of the side effects associated with SSRIs. So they're getting the blunted effects, so blunting of emotions. Things don't feel as pleasurable as they used to. Sometimes it can affect just in general anticipatory pleasure, so they don't get that thrill or excitement leading up to something that's fun. So that's something to really keep an eye out for, because again, I've got a folder on my computer here just keeping tally of all the guys that are being affected by ashwagandha, and I'm just trying to get the message out there. Just be careful with ashwagandha.
That's funny you're saying that, because ashwagandha, it was a month ago, ashwagandha was a supplement that was kind of going viral on TikTok and IG, and everyone was talking about, oh, ashwagandha is going to increase your testosterone. So everyone started buying and taking ashwagandha, but you weren't hearing about anything like this.
Yeah, it's rarely spoken about because it's only one little study back in, I don't know, it was like at late 1990s. But again, we need to respect personal experience and anecdotal experience as a form of evidence, because I'm just seeing more and more guys. I literally will just ask guys like, hey, have you started using ashwagandha? They'll be like, yeah, I started 4 weeks ago. I'm like, have you noticed this, this, and this? And they're like, shit, I have. I've noticed all those symptoms, and I thought it was supposed to be good for me, but something to just really keep an eye out for.
The overrated, underrated, perfectly rated on vitamin D. What you
I'm
guys
gonna go
think?
here with this one.
I'm going over.
I'm going peak, perfectly rated.
I'll go. Perfectly rated as well.
Why do you think it's overrated, man?
I just think it's overrated because I think that the habits that help increase vitamin D are really critical and really crucial. So like going out in the sun and probably having proper sleep and nutrition and other protocols, keeping those intact, I think are more important than vitamin D itself. So I oftentimes will hear experts and hear people talk about vitamin D and how important vitamin D is. And I don't disagree that it's important, but there's a big difference between vitamin D as a hormone inside your body versus you taking a vitamin D supplement. So I think that people have kind of mixed things up by talking about the vitamin D supplement. And I don't know if there's a lot of research showing that the vitamin D supplementation does much of anything, but there could be. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I'm like unaware, but as far as I know, I don't think there's a lot of research showing that like a vitamin D pill is going to really do anything. It may raise your blood vitamin D when you go to get your blood tested, but again, I don't think that has the same impact as having the habits that raise your vitamin D.
So many things come with the habits of like getting outside, getting sun, your circadian rhythm, all those things, along with vitamin D. The habit of going out and walking and doing all those all work together, right? And sometimes you may think that, okay, I'm taking my 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. I'll be fine if I don't go out and get a walk today, or I'll be out if I don't go out and get sun today. I can just stay indoors. And that's not the thing. Supplements are good. They are helpful, but that's why it is more beneficial to do the thing and take the supplement rather than just taking the supplement thinking that it's going to make the difference.
Yeah, I was just saying perfectly rated because of what you guys have both been saying, like getting out in the sun. Phenomenal. I think we're all starting to understand, at least maybe because in the circles we run in, that people are understanding getting out in the sun is super beneficial. And when we looked at your labs recently, we noticed like, oh, wait, your vitamin D was lower during the winter time. So in those situations, I don't think it hurts to take a vitamin D supplement. What you said makes a ton of sense as well about like, well, we don't really know what happens when you take it. And just because your labs show that your vitamin D levels are high, is that the same? We don't know, but I don't think it hurts. And so it's like I think it can help, in many scenarios to just make sure your levels are cool throughout the year.
Yeah, a little bit of supplementation can help, as well as getting outside, as well as looking up things that have vitamin D and vitamin K in it. There's supposed to be like kind of a synergy between the two. So you just might want to look it up and investigate it more. I just sometimes think that, in the fitness community and wellness community type stuff, we just tend to like really just maybe over amplify the benefits. Like if you're just sitting on your couch and you're some pale ass motherfucker who's not getting outside at all, I don't think you taking popping 10,000 IUs of vitamin D every day is going to make a huge difference in your health.
I still try to take it consistently, but yeah, I agree.
Do you have anything up your sleeve in terms of like recovery or in terms of just being able to load the muscles with more nutrients?
Yeah, there's one molecule that I'm really excited about. It's not exactly released yet, but it will be fairly soon. Everyone's heard of BCAAs. Everyone knows about leucine, isoleucine, valine, so those three amino acids. There is one that's a derivative of leucine called dileucine. It's two leucine molecules bound together to create a dileucine peptide, and that one there, based on some initial human trials, that one there increases protein synthesis by up to 40% more than leucine by itself. So that's something that's going to be really cool.
When you say it's unreleased, what do you mean by it's a molecule that's unreleased? Like, how did you get your hands on it?
I work real closely with Sean Wells. He's like he's considered the world's greatest formulator. So I do get my hands on some nifty ingredients. And if you saw my pantry, I mean, it's full of exotic botanicals and weird compounds. But it will be released, I think, later towards the end of this year. I'm hoping to see it released just in isolation so that guys can literally use it on its own, like post-workout, maybe like adding less. It's like less than 2 grams in your shake. That's really exciting. I'm really excited about that one.
What about some of these things that people are utilizing to help them manage their blood glucose levels? There were some of these pharmaceuticals that you were talking about that can maybe assist with people losing body fat and things of that nature.
Yeah. So the one compound that really excites me from an insulin sensitivity perspective is, again, a lot of people know about berberine, but there's something else called dihydroberberine, so DHB, not dihydroboldenone, dihydroberberine. That one there is really interesting because a lot of the drawbacks associated with berberine is the really poor bioavailability. You have to use really high doses. If we're trying to match, like, let's say metformin, you have to use, 1,500 to 2,000 sort of milligrams to really see a difference. But dihydroberberine, we can use such a small dose, like 50 to 100 milligrams per day, and it's got better bioavailability. It then gets reconverted back into berberine in the small intestine, and it doesn't come with any of the drawbacks like bloating, cramping, or all the other side effects. So, and dihydroberberine is awesome because it improves GLUT4 expression, activates AMPK, and increases adiponectin and all these awesome pathways.
And that's still something that people can get their hands on currently?
Yeah, it's released. I just did a post about it a couple of days ago on my Instagram for those, because a lot of people have been waiting for that ingredient.
How would someone go about utilizing that? Would that be something you would want to take with a high carbohydrate meal type of thing?
Exactly, yeah. So my premise there is to use it about 20 to 30 minutes before your highest carb meal of the day. So for me, that's like in the evening. I tend to refuel on carbs in the evening. And so I'll use it about just the same way that bodybuilders would use metformin. They would use, dihydroberberine as a substitute there.
And for you, actually, since you kind of mentioned that, in what ways do you like schedule out your food during the day for work productivity?
Yeah, so I do fast a little bit. I was telling Mark that I do aim to get 20,000 steps in a day because I got a treadmill desk set up. So I do a lot of content creation on the treadmill. But as soon as I wake up in the morning, like I'll do 10,000 steps, fasted. Once I hit that 10,000 steps mark, I bring in my first meal, which is always like 40, 50 grams of protein with some sort of fats. So it's high fat, high protein. Mm-hmm. And then I shift everything, and then I stagger the carbohydrates back and carb backload. It works really well for me from a productivity perspective, and then also the sleep aspect as well. I find I sleep, really well when I shift majority of my carbohydrate sources towards the end of the day.
And also, like when you mentioned dihydroberberine or berberine, do you notice any shift in how tired you feel after? Because like if I eat a high carbohydrate meal, if I don't go take a walk, I'll feel pretty lethargic, kind of tired. Do you notice that kind of goes away when you use that?
Yeah, it does help to blunt the post-meal fatigue a little bit. So you do get, just like even when I've played around with metformin, I've noticed my carbohydrate tolerance, and also megadosing vitamin B1. That one there is so effective to reduce the crash post-meal because it really ramps up glucose oxidation. So you get like a really good ability to handle carbohydrates when you have like, let's say 400 to 800 milligrams of just vitamin B1 on its own. A lot of people think that, I get B1 in my B complex, but when you use B1 on its own, like in isolation, like that one there is really effective for reducing post-meal fatigue.
Creatine.
Oh.
What do you guys think?
I'm going to give it a P.
Give it a P. All right, I'm going to say this real quick. Underrated because I think because it's not a stimulant, you don't necessarily take the creatine and you feel the powers of creatine. because of that, even in the past, I've been inconsistent on my creatine, right? Whereas you take some caffeine or you have a pre-workout, you're like, I feel like God, but creatine, you don't feel it. But it has those effects after like a few weeks of use. You know what I mean? You will have better pumps in the gym. You have better workouts in the gym. It is the most researched supplement on the market, and it is the cheapest. So it's like, take your fucking creatine, even if you don't feel it. I think it's underrated.
I remember I came home from work one day, and my wife goes, "Oh, your creatine came." And she kind of slid it across the counter, and I was like, I didn't order creatine. And right as I said that, Jake comes walking in the door.
Nice.
I slide it back across the table, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I learned it from watching you. No, he just had this grin on his face. He's like, yeah, I ordered some creatine. But I take creatine. I've been taking it for a while now, and I've always thought it had benefit. Sometimes when you hear from guys like me that use performance-enhancing drugs, like, nothing works, nothing does anything. But I think creatine has some application, and why not use some of it here and there? I just think it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to say underrated, because what you just said, Nsima, like, you don't feel it, and you know, it's not like a caffeine. It's not like anything that you're gonna take and instantly feel.
This is tasteless white powder.
Yeah, you literally don't recognize it in anything you take.
What a great marketing scheme.
Right, yeah. So
You're
that's
not going to really actually feel it,
yeah,
but it's doing something.
But no. Actually, maybe I'll even go overrated, because there are some like supplement companies that will mix it in with stuff and then be like, oh, super pump, whatever. They don't do that anymore.
They do, but they're bullshitting you. They try to make like creatine nitrate and
so that's what I'm saying. That's where I was like, maybe I'll go overrated.
Complex. Yeah,
because it's not going to do that. But I don't think, just kind of like what I said with vitamin D, there's no harm.
I don't know if you guys ever mentioned this, or ever noticed this, but many years ago when I took creatine when I was natty, there was a point where I was natty.
What?
I know, it's amazing. I remember taking creatine and feeling my muscles and being like, I think my muscles are fucking harder. Like, I thought it made a difference. It felt like it made a difference. Have either one of you guys ever noticed like a noticeable, like, marked difference in anything?
After like a few days, pumps are better, and I am literally fuller because I'm holding on to more water. My muscles are more hydrated. So yeah, after a period of taking it, you do. But the thing is like, it's not something that you will take it and feel. Right. You just got to get into the habit of just putting it in something, whether it's your coffee or water, whatever, and just taking it each day.
Yeah, I've never really noticed anything.
So you've gotten your labs done, whether it's 6 months ago or a year ago, and you want to know where things are at, but you don't want to get a full panel again. That's why I've partnered with Merrick Health, owned by Derek, for More Plates, More Dates, and we have something called the Checkup Panel. This is an affordable panel with 55 different labs that will allow you to see all those different biomarkers, and you can get this channel every month or every 2 months, whatever frequency you like, but it'll give you all the specific labs that you want to know so that you can make sure that you're moving in the right direction for your specific hormones. Andrew, how can they get their hands on it?
Yes, that's over at MerrickHealth.com/powerproject. That's MAREK health.com/powerproject. There you guys will see our checkup panel. Load that into your cart, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off of that panel. Again, MerrickHealth.com/powerproject. Links in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Omega-3s. Are you guys hot, by the way? Do you need me to turn the air on?
No, I'm good.
I feel okay.
Right. Omega-3s is actually, I will say, underrated.
I don't even know what omega-3s are.
I've mainly started taking them because of Charles Poliquin.
I'll just put it here.
You're talking about just like fish oil capsules?
Fish oil capsules.
I said over.
And like, I also get in a bit of fish in my diet too, to try to get omega-3s in there. But, you know, apparently it's good for your heart, it's good for joint health, etc. And it's something that's very easy to miss, especially if you don't eat fish. So most people who don't eat fish often, or eat fish 2 or 3 times a week, it's a good idea to supplement some omega-3s. It's not a bad idea at all. I've never seen anybody talk about like massive non-benefit. I know that Poliquin, the reason why there's a period of time that I started taking like hyperdosing omega-3s, because Poliquin did mention something about it.
Like 20 grams or something.
So literally, I have days I take omega-3s, and then I just have days where I pop 8 capsules just for the fuck of it, right? I don't feel anything, but I do think, because like some weeks I don't eat a lot of fish or whatever, it's something that I could easily not get enough of. And yeah, so I do think for most people it is underrated because it's not one of the sexy supplements, but it can have a benefit.
Yeah, I do know Poliquin was a huge fan of omega-3s, as well as Ian Danny and some of like Poliquin's like understudies and stuff. But when it comes to like these different fats, it's hard for me to make sense of like, like our hunter gatherers, like really needing like access to so many different sources of food, like, I need salmon today, like, you got what you got. Right. And I don't know the human body can like make certain things and stuff like that. But, I don't think it's like critical by any means, but it does seem to be some research, showing that it could be like heart protective and stuff like that. We have had a couple people on the show talking against it.
That is true.
I can't remember exactly who we had on, but we've had a couple people who've talked kind of poorly about it. One thing to consider with fish, and this is something that people have been mentioning a lot more recently, is just like the world we live in now is pretty toxic, and they consider the ocean to be toxic soup, basically. So the fish that we eat are, they're not the same as they used to be. A lot of times the fish that we have access to and things like that, they're farm-fed fish and they're not wild fish and things like that. So I'm just not a huge proponent of fish oil. I've taken it many times over the years, haven't noticed a ton of differences. I'll just kind of finish on this point, though. A lot of people do swear by it, and they believe that it can help with inflammation. And some people even think it can help a lot with gut health.
Yeah, I'll just say overrated because I think fish is overrated, and therefore omega-3s are now overrated.
He just had like 4 packets of Element, like 4 grams of salt.
And that becomes an important component of a whole food diet, a low-carb diet. One of the things that people do experience is the keto flu or what have you, and it's just the fact that when you lose glycogen from the muscle, you're also losing 3 parts water, which is about 70+%, probably more sodium. So people can get some deficiency in salt in particular, other minerals as well. And so we add salt back in. That's an important part of compensating for the loss of that. Again, 70% of the population is eating, highly processed, ultra-processed food. That stuff's very rich in salt. So when I made my recommendations, when I talked about sodium some years ago, the medical community was all up in arms, obviously conflating my recommendation with those for hypertensive, sedentary, overweight people, which I specifically said this is a recommendation for active people who aren't eating fast food or highly processed foods. And if you're hypertensive, which somewhere around 20 to 30% of the population is salt sensitive or hypertensive, a lot of that is probably due to their current health condition. You should not add salt to your diet. You should probably stay on a lower sodium diet. There's more important things you can do to reduce hypertension, such as resolving sleep apnea, losing weight, getting sufficient micronutrients such as potassium and magnesium, etc. And that bears out in the studies. But you do want to add salt back in to the diet. And there's a number of studies that suggest that kind of the average worldwide is somewhere between 3 and 6 grams, or 3.5 and 5 grams. Kind of, if you look at all the populations throughout the world, it's kind of that's where they settle in at. And so I think it's important that you use that kind of as a baseline, because there's what the studies continue to say, and I've printed out a whole bunch of them here, that the current evidence suggests that if you're not hypertensive, that eating that sodium does not have an adverse effect on cardiovascular disease. One of the largest studies, of course, was the PEER study, which I referenced years ago, but they did another recent update. And Salim Youssef said he's the president of the World Heart Federation. He's a cardiologist out of Canada and one of the lead researchers on the PEER study, which is one of the largest. Current evidence indicates that most people around the world consume a moderate range of dietary sodium, 3 to 5 grams a day, and that this level of intake is associated with the lowest risk of cardiovascular disease and mortality. Several health organizations, and this is important here, several health organizations recommend low sodium intake for the entire population, a level that has not been achieved by any modern population in the world. We talk about compliance. We talk about recommending things to people that they can do consistently. These short-term studies, like the DASH diet and some others, are usually 30-day studies. And they're also confounded by the fact that they're studies on hypertensives, and they also dramatically increase potassium and magnesium in the diet. Eat more fruits and vegetables. So what's the effect for the weight loss? This is another one that says higher intakes of potassium and magnesium, but not lower sodium reduce cardiovascular risk in the Framingham offspring study. Lower sodium intake was not associated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Potassium intake led to a 34% lower risk of cardiovascular disease, as well as magnesium and calcium. So that is one of the reasons that I build the foundation of the vertical diet to be high in potassium. A potato, some fruit, some yogurt. There's 100 milligrams of potassium in every ounce of meat that you eat. You can easily cobble together about 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day. Dr. Baker's probably getting that just from the meat that he eats. There's some, hate to appeal to authority, but there are some good authorities on this that to reference. Lane Norton is one of them. It says sodium is not a problem. It's a critical nutrient for every cell in the body. It's responsible for creating action potentials in your nervous system. Its association with heart disease is confounded by the healthy user bias, again, as we discussed, and consumption of processed food. And increased sodium consumption, your kidneys will increase sodium excretion and vice versa. The blood volumes, as you mentioned, very tightly regulated. That's what your kidneys are for. When you deplete sodium, your body increases aldosterone and retains water. Blood levels of sodium do not change in studies. Lane has said specifically the same thing I said, which I didn't realize until I read this article of Lane, that he has some clients consuming over 10,000 milligrams of sodium a day and their health markers are normal. I said the same thing in my video some 3 years ago, and I just got lambasted and attacked, of course, by the medical community. I do have clients consuming that much. I have clients who are salty sweaters. Lane Johnson's one of them. He was sweating out 5 grams of sodium an hour. And so obviously we had to put in an intervention. The Philadelphia Eagles are, they're tested by Dr. Sandra Godick from the Heat Institute. She's a PhD in thermoregulation and hydration, and she'll do salt testing by using a patch. And so she has these specific measurements, and then she gives them a hydration protocol that they utilize. It's a high salt drink with 2 sugars. They use dextrose and maltodextrin. I've been recommending fructose and dextrose in a 2-to-1 ratio of dextrose to fructose because it's easier on the stomach to digest. But when you combine those, you have better uptake. Sean Wells, who's a nutritional biochemist, and he's a fellow of the ISSN, he says he thinks it's the most beneficial ergogenic aid for athletes, utilizing salt. Helps with brain fog, as I mentioned, cramps, improves performance, stamina, endurance, recovery. It's the most abundant electrolyte loss during exercise when you're sweating. And again, mentions the epidemiology confounded by ultra-processed food consumption, and talks about the benefits of sodium bicarbonate as well for as a buffer for hydrogen ion activity. Eric Trexler from Mass Research Review. Sodium heart disease risk is through sodium's increase in blood pressure, which would only apply to hypertensives who weren't getting sufficient potassium. It's only relevant for salt-sensitive individuals, and even then it's dose-dependent and salt concentration-dependent. Very important to remember. If you're going to consume a can of Pringles and not drink any water, you're going to have a problem. The salt concentration is important. If you drink sufficient fluid with your sodium intake, you're not going to have the same adverse effects. Mentioning again, 25 to 30% of the population is salt-sensitive. 5 to 15% is reverse salt sensitive. Lane Norton said this as well, which I didn't read earlier. Those people, when they get low sodium, have an increase in blood pressure. The reason that I talked about it, not only in terms of performance for athletes and the amount that they sweat out, but I talked about the fact that as a personal trainer, somebody who's trained thousands of clients over the years, worked in gyms, owned gyms, still train clients, when you get a middle-aged woman or elderly woman that comes in and uses the leg press and then stands up and has to hold on because she's dizzy, you realize that that's because of salt depletion. And the fix to that problem is getting sufficient salt. I just had a guy yesterday DM me 2 days ago. He said, Stan, I'm throwing up after workouts. Why is that? And I said, you need some, like a Gatorade during your training, something in a salt tablet. The very next day, he's like, oh my God, I had an amazing day, set a PR. I've been getting that kind of feedback. We've talked about it before. Probably the second most frequent piece of feedback I get after probably the CPAP for sleep apnea is from people who incorporate salt into their diet and see a substantial improvement in their performance in the gym. Alan Oregon's last on this list. Large-scale scientific reviews have determined there's no reason for people with normal blood pressure to restrict sodium intake. It's been known for 20 years that people with high blood pressure who don't want to lower their salt intake can simply consume more potassium-containing foods. Dutch researchers determined that a low potassium intake has the same impact on your blood pressure as high salt consumption does. The average guy consumes about 3,100 milligrams of potassium a day, 1,600 milligrams less than recommended. These are all, I think, highly regarded individuals commenting about the very same thing we've been saying for many years now, that, of course, I've taken lots of incoming assaults because of how it might adversely affect a sodium-sensitive, hypertensive, elderly, obese individual.
Yeah, I want to add. I interviewed Bill Schindler, and again, he goes out and lives with all these indigenous tribes around the world, and every single one of those tribes seeks out salt to add to their diet. And the point Stan makes about the correlation between sodium consumption and ultra processed food is the biggest confounder. I mean, if you look at where's most of the salt coming from, it's coming from junk food. So to blame, again, it's the same, misconception. We're blaming the junk food or blaming the salt for what the junk food is doing. And, I think, I find from a performance standpoint, in fact, I failed to do that before we worked out this morning. Usually I'll take some salt. And
beforehand, yeah. We were down in it after.
Right.
So got them laying around here.
Right, so I should have done it before. I would have probably got an extra rep or two.
That was it. Yeah. You want a rematch, don't you?
Right, exactly.
We're coming back here
salt.
for your next birthday.
Yeah, with some salt.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was, and as we point out, I've been on a low-carb diet for now 8 or 9 years. I was on, low-carb diets before I started the carnivore diet. And I learned early on that restoring my hydration prior to training was important. You talked about the compressibility of the muscles, and when you're more hydrated and your muscles are more hydrated, you're stronger. You perform better.
Love that feeling.
Right. So it's feel you're swelled up. And
it's almost like you're wearing a bench shirt.
Yeah.
Beef. Power Project family, it is grilling season. Now, I really don't know much about grilling since I use an air fryer at home. My boy Andrew does, though. So, since it's grilling season, it's time to get your hands on some Piedmontese beef. We love those glizzies. We love that beef. Andrew, tell them more about it.
Yeah, guys. So like you mentioned, they do have those glizzies.
Hey, yo!
For those that don't know, that's just a hot dog, but it's all beef hot dog and it's amazing. My favorite thing to smoke is their prime rib, though. And, it's grilling season. So dust off those grills, dust off those smokers, and head over to cpbeef.com, and at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Get your glizzy gobbler on.
All right, I'll just say vegetable oil.
The dangers of vegetable oil.
That's what it was. In what context? So yeah, are we gonna die if we use cooking spray? Mark says overrated.
I'd say overrated.
The trainee one.
Oddly enough, I will say underrated. This is the thing. It's like, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. We've talked to a lot of people. We've had, I still get hit up by past guests that we had for people to come on the show and talk about this more, but I really can't take any more of it because I just think it's like too much out in the weeds, I think that sometime in the future, we will find out more about some of these things. I don't think they're detrimental. However, I do think that processed foods are a problem. And this is where we see a lot of these seed oils in a lot of the products that we consume. I think Lane Norton's done a good job of pointing out that, I always talk about carbs, or in the past I talked a lot about lowering your carbs. But a lot of these things that have carbs in them, they also have fats in them. Something like a Ritz cracker or Cheez-It or something like that. It has a good amount of calories coming from fat. And a lot of times those fat calories are coming from these oils. And so it'd be easy to blame those oils on hey, look at this soybean oil or canola oil. This is the devil. But again, I think if you're eating healthy and you're eating reasonable amounts of food and you're not overeating, then anything that might come into the body that would be toxic, I think the body can handle pretty well. I think the body's designed for that. So that would be where I go with that one.
Adjusting my rating to perfectly rated. And this is the reason why, when a lot of people do talk about vegetable oils, they try to put a lot of things as the vegetable oil is the reason why this is happening. And like you mentioned, I don't necessarily think that's the reason. I think there can be an overconsumption because a lot of people do eat food out a lot, and a lot of food is just basked in that shit. Personally, I do avoid using vegetable oils at home. And I know that when I eat out, I'm going to get vegetable oil in it, but I'm cool with that. But one thing I notice, especially when I eat, when I eat out, I don't feel as good the next day. It also depends on like what I eat, but like
You also might be eating more when you go out, but I
might be eating a
understand
little
your
bit
point.
more. But like when I eat some of these foods that are, I know are really oily, etc., I don't feel as good as when I cook certain things at home. And so it happens that when I cook at home, I eat a lot of fat, but I don't use vegetable oil. I can cook a lot of stuff without the use of it. So the thing is I think it is something to keep your eye on. It doesn't mean that you need to get rid of all vegetable oils or think that this is the one thing that's going to change your health, but there's no harm in avoiding it. And it's not not difficult to avoid vegetable oil. So I choose not to just because of the things that I've heard. And there can be a benefit to that, but I don't think it is the one big reason. There's so many other habits that we talked about on the show that are going to lead to way worse outcomes, like snacking a lot, overconsumption, not getting sleep, right? These are bigger pillars above avoiding vegetable oil. So, I think it's perfectly rated.
Yeah, I would say it's perfectly rated as well. One thing, like for myself, I've gotten rid of like, I use the example of cooking spray. So I don't know if that comes equipped with like other things. But I noticed that since I got rid of that, like my stomach has been a lot better. Like it's been improving a lot, but using butter instead of like a cooking spray or something, vegetable oil, whatever you want to call it, I feel a little bit better. Like it was a noticeable difference to never want to use anything else. And again, I know that could be something in cooking spray because like I don't even remember what kind, like PAM or whatever it is, the nonstick stuff. But yeah, I took it out and I felt better. So I think it's perfectly rated because you can learn like what products have vegetable oils and just avoid them and see how you feel.
Yeah.
And if you feel better or you don't feel a difference, then you can bring them back and then see how you feel. Okay, you feel the same. Like, well, okay, you're good. You don't need to have to worry about it. But what you said is huge, though, is because if we cook at home, my son, he eats what we put in front of him. He'll eat steak, and he's fucking having a great time. My wife took him yesterday to a restaurant, and they had just plain pork tacos, right? So nothing crazy, just some tacos.
Yeah.
This morning, he woke up with a very upset stomach, and it's like, oh, shit, like what happened? What did we change? It's like, oh, like we did eat out, or you guys ate, outside of the house. It's like, well, we don't know exactly what that was cooked in. So maybe the vegetable oil that was used to, prep whatever it was part of that meal, like kind of upset his stomach. So again, I think it's perfectly rated because it can jack some people up, and for other people, it doesn't matter. But I don't think it's going to kill, or, you know what I mean? Like some people that we've had on the podcast, it was like the end of the world if you had vegetable oil. And it's like, well, maybe for some people, not for everybody.
I would kind of put it in a similar category as like diet soda and things like that. Like if you're currently eating something that has some sort of vegetable oil in it, but it's productive in keeping you on your diet plan, which is probably highly unlikely. But if you're able to still stay on your diet plan and you're able to still be at like either maintenance calories or be in a caloric deficit, please don't change anything about what it is you're doing, because I think that's your safest bet, is to figure out a way to manage your calories. But most of the time, these products are kind of more in a category of promoting overeating.
Trade them. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated.
Oh, man.
Put that at a P.
I had to go with underrated just because I think that people still don't know about it. Still don't know about the amazing properties of this plant. And of course, you could fucking overdo it. We've, seen people overdo it. I know people overdone it. I've overdone it myself in like even like testing it out and things like that and trying to make sure it's, somewhat safe for people. But, I do think people need to have caution with any of the supplements that are going to kind of like be brain oriented, just because you hear that alpha GPC, is a great nootropic, or any of these stimulants of the mind and stuff like that too. I think all of them kind of fall in a category of, and even caffeine and energy drinks and pre-workouts and stuff like that. They feel good. It's good to feel good, but then you also have to kind of recognize, hey, if something's going to make you feel good, there's probably some negative in there somewhere. So there's give and take with everything. I myself try to use Kratom as responsibly as I can. We have some of it sitting on the table right here, and I'll take tiny sips of it. When I go and run, I'll take tiny sips of it. Sometimes before a workout, I'll take tiny sips of it. And that adds up quick. That's going to add up to be a lot. So I have to be conscious and cautious of how much of it I take. We have people that call often. They'll call our customer service with Mind Bullet, and they'll say, "Hey, is this product addictive?" And we'll say, "Yes, it is." And some people will be like, "Okay, thanks," and that's it. And other people, they want to find out more. But I'm not about to lie to people. It is addictive. It does have addictive properties. It does make you feel good. So even in that of itself, because it makes you feel good, you're going to want to come back for more.
Yeah.
And so there is a little caution with it, but I still think it's underrated because so many people are in so much pain, and the opioid crisis in this country is wild. So many people are dying from opioids, and I think that Kratom can really be helpful to a lot of people. I just convinced Nsima down a bottle.
It's a third. This thing,
Your
I think
third
it's
bottle?
no, a third of it. This is the double shot. This thing, Kratom feels really fucking good, and that's like almost the problem. You know, like when you take
a lot of things you don't feel, as we were mentioning earlier,
Mm-hmm.
right?
yeah, a
Like-
lot of
like
things.
creatine,
like
you don't feel
creatine,
it.
you don't
Protein
feel
powder.
it. Protein don't feel it. Kratom, it feels really good because like the distinct thing about it, and we've mentioned this multiple times, and we mention it to guests because guests will come onto the podcast and they'll take a little bit. We'll always tell them, you feel like you want to give somebody a hug, or I feel like I want to give my mom a call and tell her I love her. It puts you in a really good mood. Now, I've never gotten addicted to it. I take it like I forgot to take it today, and when you were mentioning, I'm like, let me take a little bit, and feel a little bit good. But because it makes you feel good, you want to seek that feeling good all the time, and then you can definitely overdo it. That's why, like, I mean, you said you're taking it every other day now. I'm taking it like every few days too, because like even though you can feel really good, overdoing it is not good. Right. So you got to be cognizant about how you do certain things. Even fucking that energy drink right there. You know what I mean? Like I won't have that thing after a certain time of the day, you know, like, but it feels good, but it doesn't make you feel as good as that. But that's the thing. It's like, you need to be careful, but with careful use, I think it's so beneficial. Before my last jiu-jitsu tournament, I was taking sips of it. I took a sip of it in the morning, and I was taking a few sips before each match just to put me in a very happy, good mood, because I roll better when I feel a little bit better, right? So it can definitely have performance-enhancing effects because of your mood. But when you try to seek that feeling with a supplement all the time, that's when you're in a problem. So you gotta be smart. You gotta be smart.
And anything that's going to help blunt pain, which Mind Bullet Kratom can do.
Yes.
Again, there's a cost to that too. We know there's a cost to taking aspirin and ibuprofen and these things. So you always want to have a little bit of caution with it. It's a great product, and it can help put you in a good mood. It can help block a little bit of pain. It could help maybe relax you in certain situations. But do your best to try to be in control of that.
Yeah, I'll say underrated because you do some research online, and it quickly goes to it's great for addicts. It's like an opiate or whatever. All these things like for pain, and it's like, well, shit, dude. Like I'm not an addict. I don't have that much pain. Like I don't think this is for me. Meanwhile, this person is going to go to work, go to the office. They're going to do something that requires a lot of focus. And oh my gosh, when it comes to like getting in the flow state or zoning in and getting a lot of work done, I haven't taken anything that works as good as a Mind Bullet. Now I might take it once or twice a month. Like I don't really take it that often. I've never felt a dependency on it. But I do like it a lot for getting a lot of work done. It does put you in a really good mood. I would say the most I was taking it was back when I was doing a lot of the Hustlemania videos, because those took a long time to put together. But I would just sit there and listen to music for like 4 hours, just loving the beats that I would put into those videos. And that was such a huge part of that whole series. And people would always comment about like, oh, I can't believe you put, whatever song on this video. That's so dope. And so it just really puts you in the zone, and it really makes you enjoy what you're doing. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a physical thing. It can be something that you're working on, like at a desk or writing. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine how good it would be while trying to write stuff down and get some other work done. So yeah, I think it's underrated because I don't think that's the first thing that people go to is like the productivity boost that you get when you take it.
You want to get the dishes done and laundry done, take some Kratom.
Yeah.
Subcaloric low-fat diet is, it's a form of nutritional castration, basically, right? And some people require more fat than others, but that is absolutely deadly to the reproductive system. And if you increase your fat, in particular saturated fats, the vegan community is pretty angry with me right now because I said, sin of all sins, I said that I eat butter. I like grass-fed butter. I don't eat chunks of it. I eat a little bit of it. And there's a video on the internet saying, bad advice. My blood lipids are great, thank you. And sometimes I put it on a vegetable. But I never said to consume butter in large amounts. But if dietary cholesterol is vital for hormone production. Mm-hmm. And for me, butter, red meat from good sources is wonderful. Other people, they don't want to ingest those, and eggs are really good. People are big on fish and omega-3s, but some amount of saturated fat is good. If you put your saturated fat to 0, your testosterone will drop. There's no question about it. And I'd be happy to share my blood lipid profiles and show I've done the experiment. So you need ample calories, you need ample fats, and you need ample amino acids. And then there's the supplementation realm. And then it really starts going to, okay, like zinc, do you need, yes, okay, fine, sufficient zinc. Do you need to supplement zinc? Maybe, probably not. Magnesium is important for these pathways, but it's indirect. The two things that, at least in my observation and in my hands and in the helping some people with this over the years, that have made a big difference, and again, this is different for everybody, but have been these two compounds, Tonga Ali, which is Indonesian ginseng, reduces sex hormone binding globulin. Sex hormone binding globulin and albumin are what bind the testosterone molecule and deliver it to your different tissues. Now, sex hormone binding globulin has been demonized. People are like, SHBG is bad because free T is what counts. True, but sex hormone binding globulin is also time release on your testosterone. You don't want a ton of testosterone, then it plummeting either. So having some sex hormone binding globulin around is good. In fact, low SHBG levels are what women see in polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. And that's an issue. So Tonga Ali can lower sex hormone binding globulin and free up some testosterone. And it is true that free testosterone ideally is in the 10 to 15 range or something. Typically, this is going to be nanograms per deciliter, just for people out there. But dihydrotestosterone, DHT, is the most dominant androgen in humans. And we'll get back to that. But Tonga Ali, 400 milligrams a day, taken in the morning, will increase free testosterone. I know that there's some folks out there. Again, you have to check with your doctor if this is right for you. But there's some folks out there that said, I didn't see the full 200-point increase that you referred to. Okay, well, let's talk about that in a second. I've seen people get 400, 500 nanogram per deciliter increases, but they started off low. Okay. And then Fedogia agrestis, 600 milligrams. I've seen people recommend a lot more. I don't think that's a good idea. Fedogia tends to increase luteinizing hormone. Luteinizing hormone is the signal for the testes to make more testosterone. Fedogia in many people will actually increase testes size. It's a tangible increase in testes size. Now, there are some reports out there about toxicity of Fedogia. Those were rat studies. They may have merits. I do think everyone should get their blood work done, and they should, before and after trying any of these kinds of things. And I think that people should be careful to get their liver enzymes included in those profiles. Okay. So again, 400 milligrams of Tonga Ali, 600 milligrams of Fedogia will work to increase testosterone by way of luteinizing hormone and freeing up testosterone. Taken early in the day because they can stimulate energy and so forth. Why am I mentioning this? Well, first of all, I want to be very clear. I don't have any financial relationship to any companies that manufacture those things. Zero, zilch. But, and some people ask, well, how much should I take? Maybe the answer is 0. Maybe you shouldn't take it at all. I don't know. So if you're going to explore testosterone augmentation, I think those are decent places to start, but you do need to do your blood work. You need to monitor your liver enzymes. You need to be smart about your health.
It's also most likely not going to make you look like somebody that abuses steroids that's on Instagram.
Right. It absolutely won't.
Right.
What it will do is increase it will mildly increase some of the parameters that we've talked about related to testosterone. Willingness to effort, for one. Some people get big libido increases. Some people, they're more subtle. It's a subtle increase of 100 to 200 points, right? Yeah. And there are the extreme cases of 400 or 500, but I've seen, and someone wrote to me and said, my testosterone only went up 50 points or something. Okay. First of all, the sourcing is going to be key. There's a lot of garbage out there. There's a big problem with the supplement industry. And this is also relevant to where we're probably going, which is things like TRT. The quality control provided from a doctor in a clinic is quite high compared to the supplement industry. I can mention names for Tonga Ali and Fedogia. The only ones that I'm aware of that are what they say they are, although there may be other companies too, is Solaray makes the Tonga Ali, and Barlow's Herbal Elixirs makes the Fedogia. I put links to those in the show notes for the Tim Ferriss podcast. Yeah. So these folks.
Right now, I know you're looking in the mirror. You're getting ready for your nephew's quinceañera. You have a long sleeve on that looks horrible and your pants don't fit right. That's why we partnered. I don't know why you're laughing. That's why we partnered with Viore Clothing. You see, this is the Boulevard shirt jacket. Fits great, stretchy, feels amazing. It's the best long sleeve in my closet. And one of the biggest things that we love about Viore is that they have clothes that you can wear to parties. They have clothes that you can wear in the gym. Like I said, your nephew's quinceañera. You can look great wherever you go if you step your fashion game up. Plus, this stuff feels like baby skin on your skin, which is kind of creepy, but at the same time, it's kind of nice and you know it. Andrew, where can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to viore.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project to automatically receive 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Fucking hell.
And they've, I have no financial relationship to them. Now on the bottle, I think they recommend 3 per day, up to 3 per day. Personally, I think that's too high. Sorry, Barlow's Herbal Elixirs. Most I've ever taken was 600 milligrams per day. And I'm happy to share my experience with these. I did a lot of experimentation with blood work on myself, trying to find something that was mild. And then Solaray, Tonga Ali, both are relatively inexpensive. There are a couple brands out there now that are, that since I've talked about this on a few podcasts, that are using my face to advertise. There's if you see my face on anything except the Huberman Lab podcast or Mark's Instagram, I didn't approve it, or my Stanford webpage. So, and again, everybody's different, and you also have to check the sources of the naysayers, right? People are often selling things, so those will help some people, and men and women have taken those, and I feel comfortable just saying, yeah, check with your doctor. Now, then there's TRT, then there's high TRT, and then there's full-blown blasting cruise, right? And if you want to go there, we can. But in terms of, I'm just trying to think if there are any other supplements that are relevant here. There's some reports that boron, 2 milligrams of boron per day can reduce sex hormone binding globulin, nettles and things like that. The problem with nettles is it can give you weird prostate effects. Always check your PSA, your prostate specific antigen, if you're male. And then if you want, we could talk about peptides too, but I want to make sure we could cure insomnia if I stay here, right? I'll just cure all the insomnia.
I'm going to mention this because after you talk to us more about the Fedogia agrestis and Tonkat, I'm gonna get another blood work panel done, because I've done a blood work panel with our company that sponsors our podcast, Merrick Health. You guys, by the way, if you do want to get a blood work panel, they have a panel, I think it's called the Power Project panel. It's 26 different panels from men and women that can pretty much show you everything you guys need. But I'm going to get a panel done soon before I start taking Tonkat and Fedogia, because I'm very curious what it's going to do to my testosterone, because people expected me to have a really high free and total test.
Oh yeah, this is super important that people hear this.
Yeah. I think my free testosterone is the higher number, right? Or is it the lower number? I'm not sure.
It's the lower.
Your free testosterone lower. Yeah.
So my free test was 16.5.
That's okay. So I will say, just to pause. So 15 and above is a great free testosterone level.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful place to be. Yeah.
And my total was 640, 639.5, but 640. Like, I'm not going through the roof with tests.
It's modest,
right? So I'm gonna get my blood work done again in the next 2 days, and then I'm gonna start taking Fedogia and Tonkat consistently for maybe a month or month and a half, and then I'm going to get it done again to see if it's boosted me in any way and to see if I actually physically feel a difference.
Great.
Because I don't necessarily feel low on energy or anything, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, and you will notice an increase, most likely, in luteinizing hormone. I'd love to see the blood work before and after, if you're willing to share. Also, I have no relationship to Merrick Health. I'm in early discussion with them, but it's great when people can get blood work done. I do think, after hearing Dr. Kyle Gillette, who's a medical doctor, I am a fan of the MD, Okay. I know there are a lot of kinds of doctors. Hey, I don't have an MD, so I can say this. I am a fan of the MD because I teach medical doctors and the neuroscience and neuroanatomy and medical doctors in training. The MD degree is very comprehensive. There's a range of quality of schoolings and backgrounds in individuals, but the MD is a powerful schooling, right? A PhD is about this. It's about becoming really lasered on something. A medical degree is a very broad training. And so I'm a huge fan of the MD. I'm a huge fan of Kyle Gillette. I heard about him from your podcast, and we've been in early conversation. He seems so balanced, rational, and he really understands that there are women's issues, there are men's issues, there are age-related issues, there are sports training issues. And I'm so glad that you brought up that this issue of free testosterone and testosterone and that you're open enough and willing to share yours, because I think most people would look at you and think that guy's testosterone has to be 1,700 minimum after 2 nights of no sleep or something like that. What it tells me is that you are very likely to have optimal balance of ratios between hormones. They probably also look at you and think that your estrogen is down to 0, but you don't want your estrogen to 0.
Yeah.
Anyone that's ever had their estrogen to 0 will tell you kills the libido, joint pain, connective tissue pain. So I think in the next 10 years, but hopefully in the next 2 years, the world is going to have a much more nuanced and sophisticated view of these drugs and the hormones and the supplements, to the point where we can find, Mark and I were talking about this the other day, the right constellation of things that makes you a balanced, happy person who's can lean into effort, but also can lean back every once in a while. And I think, and can have a healthy romantic life, healthy training life, healthy friendships, who isn't going to make everyone leave the room because you smell like you smell like a testosterone derivative. I wasn't referring to myself, by the way, or anyone else in the room, or have acne like crazy. I made the joke this morning while we were training that it's proof that you're natural, that you don't have a single pimple, but it's true. It increases acne and oiliness of the skin. So I think it's really, really key. And I think Merrick and Kyle Gillette are second to none, really. I'm not aware of any other clinics that are out there. They're not paying me to say this, by the way. I've never even worked with Merrick yet, but I would like to, that are that open and honest about all the nuance. This is not something to wade into because someone in your college dorm or someone at your gym tells you something. You want the best information from the best sources.
Over, under, perfectly rated on protein powder.
Oh man, I'm gonna go with the under.
Underrated all around.
Yeah.
I think so protein powder, for some people that maybe are kind of unaware, like protein powder has changed so much over the years. When I first started, with Metrex and stuff like that, man, protein powder was not very good. It tasted pretty gross.
Yeah, I remember.
And you had to mix it with a lot of different things to try to blunt the flavor, and it's like a chemistry set to try to figure out how to make the thing taste halfway decent. Nowadays, you can just add some water or add your favorite kind of milk to your protein shake it up or blend it up, and it can be absolutely amazing. I don't think that people really understand the power and the impact that protein has on your nutrition. We talk all the time about protein leveraging, and by simply eating more protein and increasing the amount of the protein percentage that you eat, it can help drive down calories. It can help with satiation. And then another thing that a protein shake does that's a little different than maybe some other things that you have access to is it's going to, sometimes when you're on a diet plan, you don't have a lot of sweet stuff. Maybe you have diet soda here and there or something like that. But most of the things that you eat, you're going to be eating different kinds of chicken, different kinds of fish, vegetables, maybe some red meat, maybe some eggs. And most of the things are pretty savory. And to kind of flip everything on its head, now, with a good protein powder, you can have a good chocolate flavor. You can mix PB2 in there and have a chocolate peanut butter thing going on, or whatever your favorite style is. So I really love it for multiple reasons. It's helped so many people that I know lose weight. And there's so many options. I have my own protein powders and stuff like that, but there's literally hundreds of companies that you can go to. You can try some different brands and try some different flavors.
Yeah, it's a crazy one. Last podcast, Andrew mentioned, having a protein shake before you eat a meal, right? So that like you have that protein shake and then you eat your meal. Like sometimes if you are dieting, you might feel super hungry. You might want something that's like super calorically dense, but you have a protein shake first. It doesn't drive your hunger nearly as much. You actually feel like, okay, let me be reasonable with this meal I'm about to have. For some people that are like, oh, I can't get in the protein I need to get in. We do know, obviously, you don't need a protein shake if you can get it through meat. But sometimes the amount of meat or protein you'll have to eat is a little bit too much. It's like you'll feel too full. Protein shakes make it super easy to get in that extra 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grams of protein without without taxing the actual food you have to eat so much. So I think it's like protein shakes are underrated because I still don't think people use them as much as you potentially could. And then, guys, get the Ninja Creamy. I won't go on too long. Get the Ninja Creamy because you can make some really good protein ice cream that actually has the texture of ice cream with it. It's so good. It's so good.
To show people how to use that thing, man. That thing is incredible.
Oh.
That thing is absolutely incredible. And protein powders nowadays too, they don't kill your stomach. They used to be like, hey, this is a sure bet. I'm going to shit myself.
Yep.
I'm going to have some really hot farts and they're going to stink really bad. But a lot of the protein powders of today, they have a lot less lactose in them. You can even buy ones that are lactose free. I've had a lot of people have a lot of success with the steak shake. They really like it a lot. It doesn't bother their stomach as much. It's got beef protein isolate, has egg, it has whey in it. Those are all three of the most bioavailable amino acids that you can get from any foods. So you might want to look into a product like that. I also am making another steak shake version that doesn't even have whey in it. So it literally is, it just has beef protein isolate. I think I took out whey, I took out the egg. I got rid of all allergens completely. Because Andrew told me a while back that his wife got some food allergies here and there. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot of people that have that. So I want it to be gluten-free, soy-free, whey-free, dairy-free, just bare bones. So it'll be beef protein isolate, collagen, and then it'll still have liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas, and all that stuff in it to give it the extra nutrients.
So curious how that's going to taste.
That's
probably really good.
Fucking awesome. Yeah,
It is?
We nailed it, yeah.
Are you just going to call it No Way?
That's a good idea.
Oh man! Now we got to wait to publish this episode. Yeah, way underrated. Way underrated. I'll just go on the fact that they taste amazing. Like when people go on a diet, they feel like, oh, I have to eat salads all day and I can't have fun. There's so many amazing things that you can make with protein powder. I mean, literally anything almost. You could bake cakes with it or make muffins or something. You can make protein cookies. My wife used to make these they're like, I forgot what they're actually called, but it's just like a ball of protein powder and like almonds and shit. Like it was like an energy ball.
Is that little peanut butter thing you gave us, or that's something different?
No,
that's
different. But I did try to make a protein version of that peanut butter cup, and it didn't work out too well. But it was still good. But anyway, super underrated. And I think just like because we have a lot of picky eaters, right? People are like, I want to eat healthy, but like I only like McDonald's. It's like, well, you just make the ice cream protein stuff or whatever. And Greg Doucette has a bunch of recipes that you can make with protein powders. It's
no way. I can't do his voice.
You got to be more like the bird from what you call it.
It's what's his red bird from fucking Aladdin?
Oh, I don't know.
He's kind of Gilbert Godfrey.
That's it. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Protein powder. Everybody go have a protein shake today. Fedosia agrestis and Tongkat Ali.
Yo, actually, I'm gonna say underrated. I know Mark's gonna disagree with me on this one. All right, let me say this. Yo, I took that combo consistently for 2 months. After week 1, okay, it didn't increase my test drastically. Like whatever, it increased my luteinizing hormone
fourfold.
Increased my luteinizing hormone a lot, actually. And I still take Tongkat and Fedosia like every week, but not every single day. But just the sheer fact that my nuts were so strong, as in like my orgasms,
okay,
they were so intense, and it was a drastic difference. Also, I will say this: my libido My libido when I use a bit of Fedosia, like, yo, I was like, okay, I actually mentioned Mason, the homie Mason over at San Jose. He mentioned the same shit. Like, he's like, Nsima, you still taking Fedosia? I'm like, what do you notice? And he's like, dog, I'm so fucking horny. like, real talk. Like for me personally, man, orgasms are just like, like it's like it's crazy.
And that's how it should be sold then.
It should be sold for that, because I'm just like,
you just convinced me. I'm gonna start taking it.
My shit could hit another wall, dog.
That's the best.
Just off of that, I don't give a fuck about the test. Like, I don't. Underrated for sure. For sure.
I'm changing my vote now. Now, I just say overrated simply because people get so excited about testosterone.
That's true.
Raising testosterone, and then I think they think there's a correlation to the same impact as you'd have with steroids. And I don't know if there's anybody out there claiming that or saying that. We've heard Andrew Huberman talk about Fedosia a lot, and
I need to stock up.
We've heard other people talk about it a bunch.
Be sold out.
And even as beneficial as it may be, it's not. I don't believe it's going to be like performance enhancing in terms of your performance in a weight room, but apparently it might be performance enhancing in some other way. And that alone might be a reason to take it. I mean, fuck, man, what's wrong with having a little bit better sex drive and being able to put out a little bit more force?
Yeah. So then with that in mind, I'll say it's overrated, but overrated because maybe it's not being marketed the correct way, which, could be just like a bedroom enhancing supplement.
Yo.
Sounds great.
It feels crazy, dog. Like, shit really does. Yeah. It's wild.
Green supplements.
I'll say it.
Underrated from Nsima. Mark Bale. Marky Moo.
I think with some of these Fedosia supplements, you can't tell what's like legit on
Overrated.
Amazon. I say underrated just because, like, I personally don't eat a crazy amount of greens. I don't like get that in my diet naturally. But I've been using some athletic greens, and I've noticed a bit of a difference. I use it every single morning, and it's like it allows me to get in the things that I typically don't get in from, the food I eat. And it's simple. It's just a very fucking easy thing. I can add it to a protein shake, or I can just take it in the morning. And I've noticed the difference myself. So I think for a lot of people that don't eat their fucking greens, which I maybe should, but I don't. It's just an easy, put it in 20 seconds, get it in, move on with your day. Right?
I actually meant to hold up underrated.
Oh, okay.
But I messed up. So I think just a lot of these things are just underrated simply because people just need better health practices.
Yeah.
Do Americans need to find more micronutrients and not have such macronutrient dense foods? Yeah, 100%. So if you can find a way to get in some good micronutrients where the calories aren't through the roof, then amen, brother. I think that's great. And hopefully they're mixing in some other stuff in that shake that is making it worthwhile for them. Maybe they're adding some protein to it or something like that.
Side note, Joel Green also has, if you guys have gone through his book, which I haven't gone through his book, it's so dense, but he talks about the red blends and all these different things and how the benefit on the gut microbiome and all that shit. I haven't gone that deep. I've just been using the Athletic Green stuff, but I dig it. I think if you go down that route, there's probably some benefit there. So
yeah, I'll say underrated. Like, because my wife, she's always trying to get me to eat vegetables and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to eat them. And so this is like a super easy way, and it's underrated because, like, you think greens and powder, and, like, I don't know, have you guys ever had spirulina powder before?
I've had it, yeah.
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
These Athletic Green stuff don't taste anything like that. They don't taste bad. Kind of like the protein powders back in the day. Like, things have changed, and along with, like if you're going to be in the habit of taking a green supplement, you're probably going to get into a habit of taking other good things. And so it's going to start pushing you towards this direction instead of like having donuts for breakfast, right? Like you might become a better person from simply just getting better habits. And this could be, I know that sounds like a lot, like, be a better person, but like, no, like you overall, you have these better habits. You're now walking, you're eating right, and you're covering all your bases with some greens. Yeah.
My girl fucking hates it. I shove it down her mouth every morning, man. The greens. The greens. My bad.
I love you. It's kind of acting as like a multivitamin too. In some way, right?
Yeah.